The air in Monica's home office felt thick and heavy, like it was pushing down on me as I stood there, watching her sign those trust fund papers. The mahogany walls, polished to a black gloss, appeared to close in, making it hard to breathe. She had that smug look on her face, the one I'd seen too many times throughout our marriage. The one that said she'd won and didn't care who got wounded. It's done, she said, her voice sharp and conclusive, as she handed the documents across the desk toward Gregory, her new husband. He sat there in his expensive suit, looking every bit the corporate lawyer he was, all smug and happy. All $2 million will go to his son, Luke, she announced, like it was some kind of victory speech. I couldn't believe it. That money was supposed to be for our daughter, Haley, our 16-year-old girl, who deserved it just as much as anyone. Haley stood over by the window, arms crossed, her face peaceful, but her eyes sharp. She didn't say much at first, just observed her mother like she was studying her. Then, her voice steady, she asked, "Mom, why?" It wasn't loud. It wasn't whining. It was just a simple question, like she already knew the answer but wanted to hear it nonetheless. Monica didn't even hesitate. Because Luke is going to law school. He has a future, she snapped, her tone piercing like a knife. Then, she turned, those harsh eyes on Haley. And you're just playing with computers in your flat. There it was, Monica's favorite line, the one she'd been throwing at Haley for years. She never got it. Never saw how much Haley adored coding, how brilliant she was at it. To Monica, it was just a foolish pastime, a waste of time. I felt my hands clench into fists at my sides. I wanted to yell to tell her she was wrong, yet I kept my voice steady. She established an entire AI-driven trading system, I said, trying to make her see. Haley had spent months on that project, late nights, weekends, all of it, teaching herself things I couldn't even wrap my head around. She was amazing, and I wasn't going to let Monica shrug that off. But Monica merely rolled her eyes like I'd said something silly. Oh, please, let's not pretend she's some genius. She's wasting time. That was it. The dismissal. The way she always made Haley feel small, it hit me hard. Not because of the money. I didn't care about that anymore. But because of how readily she'd thrown our kid aside. Haley was worth more than $2 million. More than anything Monica could sign away. And it killed me that her own mother couldn't see it. I was ready to say something else, ready to fight for Haley as I always did when I saw it. A shift in her expression. She grinned, not a big loud grin, but a subtle one, like she knew something we didn't. "Dad, it's fine," she said, her voice calm and sure. "I fixed everything." She looked right at me, her eyes brilliant with something I couldn't quite place. Fixed everything? I had no clue what she was talking about. The trust fund was gone. The papers were signed. Monica was sitting there gloating. What could Haley have possibly done? I stared at her, my head racing. "What do you mean, fixed everything?" I asked, my voice low, almost afraid of the answer. She didn't say anything right away. Just kept that grin on her face, like she was holding on to a secret she couldn't wait to reveal. Monica didn't notice. She was too busy smirking at Gregory, undoubtedly thinking about how clever she was. Gregory slumped back in his chair, reading through the papers, not even looking at us. They thought they'd won, thought they'd left Haley with nothing. But I knew my daughter. That grin of hers, it wasn't just confidence. It was something bigger. I'd seen her like this before. Back when she figured out how to hack into my old laptop just to prove she could. Or when she built her first program that tracked stock prices. For fun. She didn't give up. She didn't back down. Not ever. And now, standing there in Monica's elegant office, with its massive desk and leather chairs, I felt something shift inside me. Maybe it wasn't over. Maybe Haley had something up her sleeve, 7%. I'd read it in some finance magazine she'd left on the coffee table, and it still didn't feel true. My daughter, now 19, had done that. My Haley. I was flipping through the mail, mostly rubbish and a handful of bills, when the doorbell rang. We didn't get many guests. Haley was generally at her new business downtown, and I kept to myself most days, working my steady but monotonous job at the warehouse. I imagined it was a delivery guy or maybe a neighbor, so I shuffled over and unlocked the door without much thought. But standing there on my fading welcome mat was James Holloway. Towering, gray-haired, and clad in a suit that probably cost more than my rent, I knew him, sort of. He was a senior partner at Gregory's law firm, one of those big-shot lawyers who popped up on TV periodically talking about corporate deals. What the hell was he doing here? "Mr. Carter," he said, his voice smooth and professional, like he was about to offer me something. "I hope I'm not interrupting." He reached out his hand, and I shook it, feeling a little disoriented. His grip was firm, very firm, like he was trying to prove something. No, not at all," I said, stepping back to let him in. "What's this about?" My thoughts were already racing. Had Monica and Gregory sent him? Was this some legal gimmick concerning the trust fund? Even after all this time? I locked the door behind him, watching as he gazed around our modest living room, taking in the faded couch and the outdated TV, like he was evaluating us. "I didn't realize you were participating." "In this project," he said, turning back to me with a look that was half astonishment, half interest. I frowned, confused. "What project?" I asked, crossing my arms. He lifted an eyebrow like he thought I was playing dumb. "Sage," he said like it was obvious. "The trading platform, it's making waves, massive waves. I assumed you had a hand in it given your link." He paused, waiting for me to catch up, and then it hit me. He was talking about Haley. "I'm not," I muttered, shaking my head. "This is all Haley, my daughter." I couldn't help the tiny surge of pride in my chest when I said it. She'd done it all. Every line of code, every late night, every deal. I was merely the guy who made sure she had meals and a place to sleep. James looked at me like he hadn't heard right. "Wait, Haley Carter?" he said, his voice rising a notch. "As in Monica's daughter?" He looked like someone had just pulled the rug out from under him, and I nearly laughed. "Almost," I whispered, leaning against the wall. "Monica's daughter. My daughter." I watched his face as the pieces clicked together. He didn't know. How could he? Monica and Gregory had spent years acting like Haley was. Nothing. Like her computer stuff was a joke. They'd insulted her, dismissed her, and now, here was this sophisticated lawyer standing in my front room, looking like he'd seen a ghost because of what she had built. "You didn't know?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. But inside, I was loving every second of this. James exhaled, running a hand over his jaw. "No," he admitted. "I had no idea. I mean, I'd heard about Sage. Everyone in the industry has. It's astounding, beating the top models by over a full %. That's unheard of." He shook his head, still trying to wrap his mind around it. "I came here because we're representing a client who wants to invest. I figured you might be the point of contact, given the familial tie to Gregory's firm." He laughed, a short, dry sound. "I assume I got that wrong?" I couldn't help but grin. "Yep, you did," I said. "Haley runs it. She's the brains, the boss, everything. I'm just her dad." I gestured to the couch. "You want to sit? I can bring you a coffee or something." He waved a hand, still looking a little off balance. No, I won't take up your time. I needed to see for myself. If Haley was behind Sage, then Monica and Gregory were in for a shock. "She's been working on it since she was 16, I said, feeling that pride bubble up again. "Started it shortly after Monica signed away her trust fund to Luke. Figured she didn't need it after all."